Most music that you'll probably end up listening to tries to invoke a lot of emotions when you listen to an album from front to back. There's a lot of albums that make you feel happy, sad, maybe even angry. A lot of polarizing albums. But today in this video, we're going to be talking about 4 very, very scary or sad albums. Why did I decide to make this video? That's a good question, because none of my videos recently have gotten any kind of traction. So if you think it'd be a good idea, make sure to subscribe to the channel so I can actually make more videos like this, because I love making videos like this. For this video, I got a little bit of a spooky set going on because I feel like it would fit the theme of the video very well. And originally, it was going to be 3 scary albums, but I wanted to include 2 clipping albums in one because you can't talk about one album with talking about the other. So this is 4 scary albums. If you guys like this video, make sure to comment down below because it sucked waiting till midnight to record this video. I don't know why I chose to do that, but recording in daylight does not sound that fun. I'm also trying to go for like a film style. I don't know why. Let's start with the first album, or the first 2 albums. I'm gonna bunch into one. Clipping is a group of 3 members, and the rapper of the group is called David. His name is David. A lot of Clipping songs invoke horrorcore aspects of music combined with different kinds of experimental noise and synthesizers. It's a very distinct tone that Clipping has cultivated throughout the years. Their debut album, their biggest album thus far, Clipping, abbreviated to Clipping is a really good album in my opinion, one of my favorite albums, probably of all time. But their scary albums really come in with There Existed an Addiction to Blood and Visions of Bodies Being Burned. Yeah, we're starting off with the heavy hitters. So let's start off with the earlier one. There Existed an Addiction to Blood kind of invokes the whole early to late 70s slasher film kind of horror. The idea that you are alone in this house, or so you think, and there's a monster coming after you. You don't know what it is, but it knows what you are. Or a lot of gang violence is mentioned in this album. My favorite tracks off this album are probably Nothing Is Safe and La Mala Ordina. A fun fact about Ma Lana Ordina is that it is named after a grindhouse horror film, which is basically just a lot of murder and a lot of bad stuff like that going on. It's essentially just the murder part of a horror movie taken to like the highest amount possible. Like as much murder as possible. Think of like The Terrifier 2 and then like more than that, just a lot more. And Nothing Is Safe has this really high-pitched piano tone going on throughout the song with the synths coming in, and it really just invokes like an unsettling feeling while David is describing a monster entering someone's home. And even though like people are trying to stop the monster, there's nothing you could do. Nothing is safe, nothing is sacred. My cat's going crazy right now. I'm also recording this home alone to make myself even more scared. And my cat found a way to open up my door. I don't know how he did that. Run for Your Life has this really cool like sample to it. It sounds like sampling someone running for their life. A lot of tracks off this album really do invoke an unsettling feeling, and the second album to come right after this, Visions of Bodies Being Burned, really emphasize this tone while adding a lot more complex feelings that make me understand the point of those 2 albums a lot more, but we'll get to that in a bit. I want to talk about There Existed an Addiction to Blood a little bit more. Story 7 is literally it could probably be just a contender for like a pitch to a like 70s slasher movie, and David kind of like adds on to this while adding like all these complex lyrics, which is kind of like his signature at this point. He does a lot of complex lyricism. Okay, well, now I'm listening to the interludes, and the interludes are actually scaring me. I listened to the haunting interlude, and it's like just this random woman describing like different occurrences happening around her house, and it's really hard to record this video right now. A lot of different things are occurring around her house. After 2 weeks in the apartment, my tufted rug moved on its own. I saw spinning things, spinning objects, and it's really unsettling. Probably, the album is probably a little bit more scary as a whole than Visions of Bodies Being Burned, but I think the album Visions of Bodies Being Burned, which we'll talk about in a second, is a lot more unsettling, a lot more grounded in reality. Another thing about There Existed an Addiction to Blood is the final track, which is around 11 minutes, 12, 13, whatever minutes of a piano burning. You could hear the strings like falling apart, like breaking as the piano's burning. Not something I would play like in the car, or I would like just play at all, but it's really cool in the concept of the album to just have a piano burning, because it really just has an unsettling sound. sound. That's really what they were trying to go for, a really unsettling sound. So let's get to album number 2. Visions of Bodies Being Burned is a pretty good addition to There Existed an Addiction to Blood. A lot more vulgar in nature, and actually they have a lot more heat on this album than the previous album. I think clipping kind of like came into their own on this album. The album was supposed to be released only 2 months after There Existed an Addiction to Blood, but due to COVID, they just waited till the Halloween after the first album. So this was released around a year afterwards. Say the Name actually goes really, really hard. It's not really scary more than it's just kind of a banger with really weird, creepy undertones. David manages to like monopolize off of these horrible sounds while offering very intricate and fast lyrics. You really notice this more on their self-titled record, which has a lot more like head bopping, like EDM-ish rap with noise undertones. But with their horrorcore stuff that you'd see on There Existed an Addiction to Blood and Visions of Bodies Being Burned, his rapping takes a more like second person, just melodramatic kind of evilness with its tones that really just exemplifies the horror of what you're listening to. 96 Nev Campbell is another track that features Cam and China, and again, the beginning of the track starts off with like banging doors, like screeching sirens and stuff like that, really exemplifying the 90s, 80s, really probably bad horror movie that you'd probably laugh with your friends. But in this context, it's taken to a very scary like point in time where you don't feel like you're laughing. It's not funny. It's unsettling. You don't want to be here, but you keep listening regardless. I really like Cam and China's verse on this track because it just fits really well while also like offering a lot of good lyrics to cleanse the palate of David just saying, "You're gonna die, everybody's gonna die. There's a monster outside your door, everybody's gonna die. We're all gonna die, we're all gonna die." Another favorite off this album for me is Check the Lock, mainly because of that weird synth during the chorus. It sounds a lot like Death Grips Is Online by Death Grips. The production of clipping really reminds me of Death Grips in a way that it is out there, but also grounded in the way where it's like, it sounds like something you hear in like EDM or techno, but it's meant entirely for like another different genre. That's why I like this album so much. It sounds so unsettling, like you're not supposed to be listening to this album. There's really good storytelling throughout this album though. A lot of really good storytelling. I'm sorry if I'm not really giving it my all, like energy wise. I woke up at 6 in the morning today and it's midnight and I have school the day after tomorrow, so I gotta get my sleep schedule in order. I make the best decisions. Visions of Bodies Being Burned is almost a better album than There Existed an Addiction to Blood. I like There Existed an Addiction to Blood more because Benny the Butcher's verse on La Mala Ordina and the haunting interlude and piano burning, just overall a lot more unsettling. And that album cover art on There Existed an Addiction to Blood, that album cover art is crazy, like, oh my gosh. And Visions of Bodies Being Burned, really, it like kind of like takes that album art and like brings it into like teeth, but it doesn't do it justice. It could have been so much better, but they decided to go for like, some of them are like molars, some of them are like canine teeth. It kind of just comes off more like that was like the last part of the album that they did. I really think with the album art of There Existed an Addiction to Blood, they spent like a month on that. Something about that album art just says, wow, that is terrifying. I don't know what it is. That is terrifying album art. It's not even openly scary. It's just really like unassuming and brooding. Let's get to a more sad, scary album. Giles Corey by Giles Corey is not actually made by Giles Corey. Instead, it's made of one of the 2 members of Have a Nice Life. Don't ask me what his name is. I fucking forgot. This album is a lot more sad in tone, but it has this dark, hellish kind of sadness that just eats away at your soul while you're listening to it. Everything from the beginning to the end. Songs like No One Will Ever Love Me, or God, I'm hearing noises in my house. I'm actually hearing noises in my house. Or The Haunting Presence, The Blackest Bile. All these tracks. Spectral Bride. I really I haven't pulled myself together to listen to this album in one sitting. I just can't bring myself to do it. I've listened to each track and I really love it, but it's really unsettling. The Haunting Presence, I actually love so much. I've learned to play on almost every instrument I have. The piano, the guitar, even the bass, although it's pretty low on the bass. It's a very simple song to play though, so that's pretty cool. And this album just kind of reminds me of albums like Quadecca's I Didn't Mean to Haunt You, if it was a lot lot more scary and evil, or even Death Consciousness, which we're actually about to talk about right now. Death Consciousness is probably one of the best like shoegaze, like sad, scary albums like out there. It's not necessarily scary more than it is sad, but I lumped it in because that album art is crazy. Jean-Paul Marat is the person depicted in that album cover. He was a European politician that had to become like bath ridden after he got a skin disease, which basically tore his skin open if he wasn't constantly in a state of wet. So he had to be placed in a medicinal bath 24/7, which he was then assassinated in only around a year after his condition was diagnosed. In the album art, you could see his assassination take place as he is in his medicinal bath with an open wound, writing his last letter, addressing, I think it was France's surrender or something. I don't know. Death Consciousness is really just kind of sad. I don't feel happy listening to any of these albums. I really feel a sense of dread and a sense of depression when I listen to these albums. A quick one before the Eternal Worms Take Over Connecticut is a very weird and sad song. There's this YouTube video called Today is the Day with like a little foam cutout of a person with a smiling face. That samples a quick one before the Eternal Worms Take Over Connecticut, and it just sounds like mourning. It sounds like grief. It sounds like you're going through all the stages of grief with these droning synths in the background. It really is sad. Blood Hail is another good one off this album. It's a really unfortunate that the two best tracks on the beginning of the album, but hey, what can you do? You know, what can you do? You know, Death Consciousness is a really good album, really great album. But I might end the video a little bit early because I really don't want to record this late. Like, I'm actually scaring. I don't know why I decided to record this late. I'm scaring myself into not recording more of the video. Let's get one thing straight though. I really like Death Consciousness because it really invokes this kind of shoegazy kind of sadness that you'll really never get with any other kind of album. It's candlelit too. I don't know why I decided to shoot this in candlelight for the most part. Jesus, even the song titles are sad. There Is No Food, Hunter, A Big Gloom, like all of these I don't love. Oh, and then holy fucking shit, 40,000. Overall, these four albums are very sad, scary, gloomy, and dreadful. And if you want to have a bad day, or a paranoid day, or a scary day, listen to these four albums back to back, front to front, side to side. But I mean, that's just kind of what I've been telling you. I mean, I'm just another music critic, and this was 4 scary albums. And I'll see you guys later. Alright, see you guys later.